This is Ultimate Soccer with Soccer Steve.
And welcome to another episode of The Exchange, where this time we're going to flip the script a little bit. Of course, last week you heard my thoughts on each World Cup group for the CONCACAF nations. Now, let's see what in-depth Soccer Steve thinks about each of these groups. And let's see, I will remind you, of course, at the end of each group, what my thoughts were. But let's flip the script a little bit, starting with Group B, England, Iran, United States, and Wales. Of course, the big news is Iran is considering pulling themselves out of the World Cup in Qatar this go around. What do you think of that? And do you think if they do pull out, will they be replaced with a country such as Italy, Ukraine, or the UAE?
Well, Italy, Ukraine, and the UAE are probably licking their lips at this juncture. You can look at this in a couple of ways, Ryan, and everybody out there, I don't normally do the politics, you know that, nor does Ryan, but this does need touching. I think personally, for my humble opinion, I think that Iran, if they don't go, remove themselves. That's the way they need to do it. And I think for, you know, the politics that is going on in their part of the world, I think there is an issue there, and I think that issue needs to be covered. So if they do pull themselves out, I think that is a really big statement. And if they really wholeheartedly do it for the love of women, let's put it that way, I think it makes a massive statement. The teams waiting to get into that spot, if Iran were to remove themselves, and it's still a big if, I say this, don't let anybody fill that slot. I think make Group B then a team of three, or a group of three, I should say, because I think, to be honest with you, Ryan, if we don't put a team in there, we actually make a bigger statement by having a void in the group.
That's a very good point there. If it's a void in the group and you just have Wales, US, and England, that does make a very good point about the point that the Iranians are trying to make about the situation politically in their country. It does show a better understanding and a better way to move forward.
Absolutely,
with trying to fix the political problems and the persecution in their country if they left that spot completely open between the thoughts of FIFA and Iran itself. So I do like the point there. But say the group stays the same or not, what do you think happens in this group, Group B?
I think Group B is an interesting group for the USA, especially that one. Looking at this group, I think quite honestly, England, although not in great form and not with a great coach, it's the players that are going to drag this team through, and they may not hit the ground running, but I think they've got enough ilk to get through that group to finish first, at least second. But second spot's really interesting. I think the USA has got to look at Iran as a little bit of a concern, and you can't really sort of ignore Wales, but I'm looking for Iran to battle the US for second, and I'm certainly thinking Wales is going to finish fourth. If you look at the Welsh team, it's a mixture of youth and experience. Some of the experience is now coming to the end of it, and that's not disrespectful to people like Bale. No disrespect meant at all, but you got to think Aaron Ramsey as well. He's been around town a few times, and he doesn't really settle down and become a starter for too many teams. So that experience and youth, it's got them to the World Cup, but I don't think it gets them out of the group. And I think finally with Wales, the Achilles heel, Wayne Hennessy with Nottingham Forest at the moment as a backup, as for the last few years with Crystal Palace, I call him a sieve. Honestly, the new age goalkeeping where they do the splits, every shot on him goes under him, goes in. Every shot going wide goes in. He's decent when it's up around the crossbar, but he's not really a shot stopper or a cross collector. So weak link is Wales goalkeeping. That'll put them to the bottom. England goes through first. I'd like to see the US make a statement, because if they get second, it certainly is making a statement. But let's not give Iran no notice here. They could be dangerous.
For me, I have US. If you remember, I have US getting through first. I have Wales second, Iran third, or England third, and Iran fourth.
Yeah.
Because I still don't have a good feeling about Southgate and the team. I don't think those players, the way they're playing, the mentality is just dropped. the horrible form. They couldn't score a goal from open play until they played Germany for a good while there. Makes you think, is this the time that Southgate it all finally blows up in his face? And even the good players that he does play that are his favorites, they can't really brute force their way through the group. I still don't think they have that chance. I'm still favoring the USA and Gareth Bale to do something with Wales, even though their goalkeeper is a sieve. I do think Gareth Bale will have some heroic performances. But again, that's my thoughts. Heard what Soccer Steve has to say about Group B. Now let's move on to Group C. Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. The big news here for Mexico is it's very possible that Tata Martino has to pull out of coaching due to a turn in his health, a downward turn in his health, and they will replace him with Ignacio Ambriz, currently of Toluca, who just got them to the Apertura final in Liga MX, and formerly the coach of Club Leon and Club America, where he did a very good job at both those clubs as well. A very talented manager. His stint in Spain didn't go very well, but he didn't get backed. But still, Ambriz, a very good manager. Does that make Mexico better if that so does happen, the switch?
I think it comes at the right time. I think if we were maybe a week away, it could be detrimental to what Mexico would bring in the group. But I think this is the right time. He's got them to the World Cup. His health is failing per se. Let's bring a younger guy in, and a guy that is potentially coming in. We both know this, with more attacking flair. I mean, this guy is literally puts you in the third and the fourth zones in the field, does the defending in your half, gets teams to win, doesn't look so boring. I think it's exactly what Mexican fans are looking for. So again, this comes at the right time. Should it happen, I think it is a positive for the team. I don't think that going into a competition whereby it could be just 3 games, that doesn't really upset the cart at this stage. The upset comes when you come in under turmoil. There's no turmoil with a health switch. It's a positive injection. And I think that this could well lead to Mexico getting out of the group, because it's going to be very tough. I mean, Poland are going to be fighting each step of the way with Mexico. So, yes, it comes at the right time. Yes, I think it's a great idea. But I certainly don't want to disrespect the coach at the moment and say it's not happening, because let's face it, it's a health issue. So, good for Mexico, good for the fans, definitely great for their World Cup prosperations of getting out of the group for sure.
So how do you think Group C will shake out at this Qatar World Cup, 24 days away before first kick? How do you think this group shakes out?
I think Lionel Messi's got something to say in this group. I think that for a long time, he hasn't proven at the World Cup stage, hasn't proven at any real stage internationally, apart from once. And I think he needs to do it at a World Cup to really be regarded as one of the greats. He wants to be remembered. Let's put it that way. No, he's not Diego Maradona. There will only be one of those. He's not a Pelé. But he wants to write his own name in the annals of soccer at a tournament, like you alluded to Robert Lewandowski with Poland, and maybe this is his competition. Well, likewise, Lionel Messi, I think he's got to do something before it's too late, because this may well be the last time Messi actually goes to a World Cup. Now, how it finishes, I definitely see number 3rd ranked team Argentina coming in first. I have no doubt about that. I think it's literally Mexico and Poland duking it out. Does the coaching switch help Mexico? I think it does. If we can certainly keep Lewandowski off the board as a CONCACAF team, that helps us too. If he has a bad situation through the games as well, it helps Mexico as well. So we need a little help for Mexico. But the coaching change is exciting for me, because I think the players will be excited to play under him too. And it could be the little bit of the difference maker that gets Mexico from sliding to 3rd into 2nd. But I'm going to say, hand on fist, Mexico will finish 3rd, Poland will finish 2nd. And let's not disrespect Saudi Arabia. They are 51st. They could do some damage. It is their area of town. They like what's in the ocean. They like what's up in the sky. The sand is beautiful for them too. So everything is perfect for Saudi Arabia. They could possibly pull a shocker, but I don't see 3 shockers. And honestly, with much respect to Saudi Arabia, I don't see them getting anywhere but 4th.
Of course, my thoughts about this group, if y'all remembered, I have Argentina first as well, because Lionel Messi, this is his moment. It's been built that way for months, since Copa America last year. Then I have Poland 2nd, Mexico, if Tata Martino stage, which right now he is still the manager, so we'll go by that. We have Mexico third, Saudi Arabia fourth, but I would be very interested to see Ambriz be the Mexico manager if he so ends up the Mexico manager, and I think that would put them second. I do think so, with the way he plays football, the way he tactically sets up his teams, and I think the way Mexico would play under him would be absolutely different and be a lot more like the Mexicos of the past than what we have now. But right now, Mexico third, Saudi Arabia fourth. Now on to Group E. Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. The possible group of death. What is your thoughts there?
I think this is time for Spain to start looking like the big team in the group. I think for a few competitions, they've not been the big team. They've been an average to good team. I think this is time for Spain to start pushing out their chest and start saying, we're number one. We're not going to mess around. We're looking for 7 to 9 points. We're going to the holy ground. We are round of 16 bound. They will finish first. I have no doubt about Spain finishing first. It's the second spot. It's the second spot. Japan is a very interesting part of this equation. You know, 24th in the world is not a no-name team. They've got damage on their side written all over them. The competition will be beautiful for Japan. The conditions will be absolutely exceptional. So everything leads into Japan maybe bringing an upset. It's going to have to be an upset for Japan to take second spot, to fall in behind Spain. You would think, with Germany being 11th in the world and their recent form not being so great, that Japan might pip them. And if Germany does drop a game, maybe a shocker against Costa Rica, then Japan could slide into second spot. But if you look at it face value, Germany is a competition team. They normally come together for the big games, and you have to finish at the end of the day looking like this. Is Spain 1, Germany 2, Japan 3, and you got to say sadly Costa Rica 4. But our CONCACAF team, we could see an upset from Costa Rica in one of those 3 games. It's going to take an upset from Costa Rica to make it through to the next round. And although they've given us some great form, that form needs to continue. The form in the final 6 games in qualifying for Costa Rica was electric, and they haven't dropped that form ever since. So coming into this World Cup, Costa Rica is really coming in like a hammer that's really not broadcasting too much. They could upset one of them 3.
With that being said, Costa Rica, it's high noon at the saloon for them, for some of their big legends.
Yep.
Johan Venegas, Brian Ruiz, Celso Borges, who are all playing well right now at Alajuelense in Costa Rica, in the league and in CONCACAF League. Still have a chance to win that final next week, next Wednesday. Should be very good to see, but they are playing very well right now with some great young players, Bonnet at Sunderland and Contreras, 2 great players, and Keylor Navas still in goal, as he has been for tournaments on tournaments. One of the most underrated keepers in the world right now, Keylor Navas.
I mean, you look at Keylor Navas, he's like the Bourgeon for Canada, you know. He knows exactly when to collect, when to slow it down. He knows when to bump somebody and get in your face on a corner move or on a free kick. He knows how to play the head games. That's all part of the CONCACAF thing, you think. It's really not just CONCACAF. That's world soccer. He's a big player. He knows to rise to that level, and he can make the players around him, especially the defenders, be more calmed by his presence. So he has a lot to offer on the goal line. He's great on the crosses, great on the shot stopping, great at the game management, but he's a massive part of Costa Rica. And if he's on his game and stays good inside them posts and nothing gets by, Costa Rica could pull a shocker.
With that being said, of course, I had Spain first, Japan second, Germany third, and Costa Rica fourth. This will be a big group of death in my book, but I have that soft spot for Japan, and I want to see them do good, and I think they can. So I have Japan second there. Spain, of course, best team in the group right now on form and the way they're playing so far. Germany had those moments at the start of Flick's reign, but it's sort of fallen back over the past 6 months since they've qualified. So I think Japan could take second, and Costa Rica definitely will have some moments of fight. And finally, the
interesting one about the Costa Rica thing is that the final game in the group for them is against Germany December 1st. So if Costa Rica is still hanging on by a thread, that could be the game that we pick out that might be the upset of the tournament.
And finally, the group that everybody has been waiting for, Group F, Belgium, Canada, Croatia, and Morocco. Of course, Morocco has just changed their manager. They have Hakim Ziyech back, some of their better players, which could make the situation with Morocco a very much harder team to play than they already were. Could be very interesting to see how that turns out. But the big story of this group is the Canadian collective bargaining between CSA, CSB, and the Canadian players, women's and men's, because it's a double-fronted sword. What does that do to the Canadian opportunity and the Canadian offensive at this World Cup? Does it ruin the team's mojo or the way they play, or do you think John Herdman can carry the Canadians through this turbulent time on the pitch?
I think first thing I look at is the games in Vancouver recently where the crowds were very small. And the feeling around the games was, we don't want to go. Now, we saw the Voyagers there in great numbers, which they always are. But your average fan basically didn't want to come to the games. So I think initially where we saw the two games getting cancelled, I think we saw a bit of a back away by the fans. When you looked at the team on the field, the eyes on the players coming out at BC Place Vancouver, all those players looked shocked. They also looked embarrassed. They didn't know where to put their faces. Now, I'm going to take it to the stage of negotiations. While you should be playing, saves red faces, saves embarrassing situations, keeps the fans in the stands, keeps everybody happy, and keeps your mojo and your team chemistry perfectly on par. Johnny Herdman has a job to do with that team chemistry. He's done a flawless job in every team he's been part of, from Sunderland, New Zealand, Women's Canada, Men's Canada. He's been flawless all the way through. Once you start to rock the boat, you ruin the chemistry. Is that mojo damaged? Yes, I say it is. And they can say that it's not. But when you look at the guys interact with each other, and you look at the way the news spills out, and then how they react on the field, and how they sit on the bench, and the body language that oozes out from everybody, and I'll draw it in a nutshell, Johnny Herdman, you can see him on the sideline the last few games still giving the ugh. And don't drop your standards in the last 20 minutes when we're against Uruguay, shouts he to the players. He's still doing his job. But I think it is damaged. And I think that possibly we'll see the repercussions of that after the World Cup. Because is he going to stay till 2026? I don't know now. But before all the politics and all the cancellations of games, and I'm not talking politics, I'm just talking facts. But before all of that, it looked like Johnny Herdman, the Superman with the plan, who got us to Qatar, it looked like we had him for the next 20 years because he was building an empire. Now I'm worried that after the World Cup, international teams looking at what a great job he's done everywhere, I think they could probably want to come in and prize him away. And I think that politics is partially to blame, not totally, but it certainly is partially to blame. But I think the mojo can be nurtured. And Canada's players will play out of pride and professionalism to keep that level. But if you ask me, is it the same great trip that we had when we were going through qualifying? I don't think it is. I think that mojo's changed. And I think we've got a happy ship, but we had a happier ship before. And I think that makes a difference in results. And it's made a difference this year. And since qualifying, we've only played 4 games. If you look at other teams, CONCACAF teams, you've got like the Mexico, USA, and Costa Rica have played 9, 5, and 6 games since qualifying. We've only played 4. So I think, yeah, we have some damage and we have some DAMCON still to get fixed. And I think that, yeah, absolutely, there is damage there. Yeah.
I will say that I think what shocked the newer people to the Canadian bandwagon is how corrupt the CSA is. Because us who have been following for years, since D-Row, since DeVos when he played,
Yeah.
since Ali Gerba,
Yeah.
and Christine Sinclair coming through on the women's side, and Rian Wilkinson and all those players.
Cara
We know
Lang.
how corrupt. Yeah, we know how corrupt the CSA is. We knew that they don't like giving the men friendlies anyway when they haven't earned anything. The women did get friendlies because they were top of the class, top of the world at moments, and still are top of the world. They still have a chance to be one of the top 4 teams, the World Cup next year, Women's World Cup in Australia, New Zealand. I think they could win.
Yeah, they've got a chance.
With that being said, though, the CSA, when the men were trash since all these years up until recently, never really got friendlies, never really got the same love or respect, except for the diehards, the Voyagers, and the people who watch them year in, year out, game in, game out, watched 8-1 in San Pedro Sula and all those moments. The bandwagoners, though, even for the women during that Olympic run, which the women still had that support, but even the bandwagoners sort of came in for that Olympic run as well. They don't understand how corrupt the CSA is, and that deal with the CSB that hurts the situation of the players. Collective bargaining, they want equal pay on both sides from this prize pool, and they won't get it because the CSA is like, oh, we can't do that. We don't have enough money to give these players what they want. Is it too much to ask for a team who just got there? You could say yes, it is, but it also shows that the men who have sort of finally got on this same wavelength as the women finally have been for about 15, 18 years, hasn't been 20 yet, but it's getting there. They're finally getting on the same wavelength for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. You look at it and say, is it wrong they're asking for this already? Maybe. But the women already proved themselves, and the men think they've proved themselves, both under John Herdman. He's built some great things on both sides of the coin, and Bev Priestman's keeping it up well on the women's side. John Herdman, I don't know if we'll have as good of a replacement for him on the men's side if he does so leave, and that's my fear. My fear is the Canadians, once Herdman leaves and this golden generation starts leaving and retiring from international football, international soccer, it's not going to be fun. We'll be back in the doldrums, the men's side of things. I think the women's side is a little bit more even keel, and they'll still be who they are into the future, even though that U17 World Cup for the women was not great. No. I think at some point the women will still have their moments and still be pretty even on their performance, not really slide back as much. But the men's side of things, it just hasn't had that sustained run of success that the women have had and still do have. So it's just a worry that the CSA may just sort of piss this away after 2026 and into the 2030s, that it keeps backsliding. That's my fear.
Yeah, no, you've got good warranted points there. I mean, you can't dismiss that. And I mean, if you look back in time, there's always been questions held or thrown at the CSA before CSB became anything. You know, people have always thrown the accusation of corruption, and too many people, too many families and close-knit families being integral to what CSA is back then, growing for the future. And I'm talking 20 years ago plus, whereby I always said this, it's kind of rude, but it's kind of to the point, yeah? When you get an organization that's very cliquey and very closed doors, which the CSA really is, and most big companies are, let's face it, yeah? No one likes to divulge the big truth, yeah? But with the CSA, I worked for the CSA, announcing games at stadiums. I got paid by the CSA. It was never, you never got friendly with anybody, okay? You never got on too many trips or announcements, or you never got included in too much. You know what I'm saying? It's very closed doors, like I say. And once you start knocking on doors and you start trying to find out what's going on, people shut the doors even tighter. And eventually you don't get nowhere near the building, let alone where the committee is or where the room may be. You don't get nowhere near it. You're like boycotted. You're blackballed. You're out of the equation, per se. But with the corruption that's gone on, they have to think about this. Canada's like now a new rich kid on the block with the soccer factory that they just inherited from the grassroots soccer, which is called players. an abundance of players coming through. Canada's never had that before. So you've got to tip your hat, if you're wearing one right now, is tip your hat to, way to go, is tip your hat to the grassroots that made all these kids come through, the mums and the dads that went to soccer practice, dropped the kids off and made it all happen, the coaches, the referees, the linesmen, and all the good people that made this whole work for the kids that now have got the likes of, just one example, Tajon Buchanan, just take one. He's come through that like a lot of guys, a lot of kids. He's over in Brugge, living the dream, Champions League team, doing great. He's one of 6 that are in Champions League soccer for Canada recently. But what we have to really, really understand is this. We were in the soccer wasteland for decades, 36 years at least anyway. We'll call it 34. Let's be kind. But for 34 years, we did nothing. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a big team. And the girls are damn good too, yeah? So we got 2 good teams rolling. But it wasn't always like that. The women have always flown the flag and been the champs. Now the guys can fly the flag. They're not champs yet, but they can fly the flag. And they've got big players that are earning big money in big leagues we've never had before. But there comes a certain amount of arrogance with that when you're talking about negotiations, the politics, the cancellations of the games against Iran and Panama earlier in the season, reference banging a head against the wall with the mojo, what we just talked about. On the financial side too, there's damage done as well. You see, we've been nobodies for years, and now we're somebody. But these players are acting like we've been somebody for decades. Like, we deserve it, right? Like, give us the cash. Come on, pay up, pay up. But you've only just arrived, so we're like the new rich kids on the block. So I think we should just think that CSA is not an organization that you can deal head on with. The doors are very closed. It doesn't seem trustworthy. You look at the soccer shop debacle with the merch, and all over, there's black eyes. Everywhere you look, there's black eyes. The CPL as well. There's another subject with the CPL. It's all politics all the time. I hate to say it, but I've been immersed in CPL this year too, which is an extension of the CSA, extension of CSB, if you really want to put it there. Everybody's interwoven. How can you sleep in the same bed of different companies and be one and not have any form of, dare we say, corruption? How can that be possible? I don't like 3 companies running one business. Your CSA should be what it is. CSB should be something else. The CPL should be run by itself. Even with the CPL, why are they attached to one of the soccer clubs, Atletico? Why are they attached to it? Why is One Soccer, one of the owners of Atletico and sponsors that team? It just breeds corruption right across the top to the bottom, because you're not supposed to be interwoven. You're supposed to be independent. And that's the truth about the business where we're talking about CSA.
If there's another red wedding in the CPL final on Sunday, you could really talk about corruption if Forge gets screwed. I'm just going to say that.
Hey, I agree.
Just like there was against Calvary last week. That red wedding was absolutely off the mark.
I tell you what, Rudolph the red card nut job, mate. Honestly, what is he thinking? You keep carding people willy-nilly, you'll have no players to play the next game. You'll just literally ruin the product, ruin the entertainment, and you'll start to see people walking out the building because referees are just not at their level. I don't normally rip referees. But boy, oh boy, I've been on field side where this guy's been on the field refereeing. I tell you what, he brings a happy face into a sad face. Honestly, so hopefully the final is a good game. Yeah.
Hope so. But speaking of Forge and Calvary and grassroots, the 2 best coaches in the CPL are a lot of grassroots coaches even before the CPL. Tommy Wilden with Calgary Foothills, yeah. Bobby Smirniotis with Sigma FC, which is sort of Forge's academy at this point.
Yeah.
But Bobby brought through a lot of these Canadian national team players, as well as Tommy Wilden doing his side of things as well, but especially Bobby Smirniotis and Sigma. And I have to give them props because they definitely deserve props for what Canada is doing right now, both those coaches. And if they weren't here and if they weren't around, who knows if Canada the players would be as good as if they are right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'd tip my hat to the CPL for what it's doing for Canadian talent, especially the young talent as well. The league's a really decent league. I mean, I enjoy the soccer and the fans are fantastic in each building, like they're really thriving off their teams. And there's a rivalry building and the rivalry between teams as well. That's built as well. But There's nothing wrong on the playing side. Nothing wrong at all.
It's the business side.
It's the business side, and it's the politics in behind. And I don't want to say too much about the politics because it would not go over very well. But honestly, soccer has politics in it. I get it, but sometimes you can have too much. And right now, that league has too much politics in and around game day. That's all I want to say on that one.
So, how do you think Group F will shake out?
Got to say, Canadian fans are going to want to kick me and the boys for this one, but I think you got to look at Croatia's number one right from the start. I mean, Modric is not going to go anywhere but to town on everybody. He's going to make a couple of moves each game, which will be clinically the level you need to make the excellence count in front of goal, and it will his assist, because he doesn't score too many. He's scored about 24 goals for Croatia over 150-odd games. He doesn't score many, but he has missed an assist and he's missed a general. So Croatia's number one, no doubt about it. It's Belgium's to throw because their form right now is not the greatest. And if you look at the other two teams below them, Morocco and Canada, everybody's thinking Morocco, Canada, third or fourth. That's where they should be. You can interchange those two. But should Morocco, and let's give Morocco a little bit of respect here, 22 in the world is their number. They're bigger than us. They should and could pull a surprise either against Croatia and Belgium. And a surprise would be not a victory necessarily. It could be a draw. Hold one of those big teams off the board, you get a point. But it separates the rest of the points and it makes it a lot tighter come game 3. But looking at the standings, Croatia first, Belgium second, and it could be a playoff or a switch around for third or fourth between Canada and Morocco. But I'd love to see an upset on Belgium, because if that happens, either Canada or Morocco could grab second spot behind Croatia.
For me, if y'all remember, I had Croatia first because I think Croatia is the best team in this group by far. Then Canada second, Belgium third, because I think the form that they've had recently, their golden generation has not been as good. They're starting to age out. Hazard hasn't really been that good. Lukaku, it's definitely not his first stint at Inter when he's gone back. De Bruyne is still playing very well, but Kevin De Bruyne is still the best player on that team.
Yeah.
Alderweireld, that defense, not the greatest. Courtois, again, one of the older players that is still pretty good, Thibaut Courtois. But again, I think they're going to be very egotistical and very high and mighty, and that's going to be what hoists them out of this tournament. So Belgium third, Morocco fourth, but they'll put up a fight as well. They could finish third, and Belgium could even finish fourth. But I'm going with Croatia, Canada, Belgium, Morocco in Group F. So with that being said, thank you for watching this episode of The Exchange, where we flip the script, where Soccer Steve gives his in-depth thoughts about each CONCACAF group. And, of course, we will also hit on the non-CONCACAF groups in the same format in the days leading up to the World Cup, which it's finally coming up, 24 days away. So, American Thanksgiving, getting to the Christmas spirit, you'll have turkey and hot chocolate and snow on the ground watching the World Cup. Even if you are in Canada, you will have snow on the ground. But it should be a very interesting opportunity and a very interesting moment to watch a World Cup like this. Should it happen again, I wouldn't support it, but it'll be a nice situation to see play out.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. 24 days to go, and hey, thanks for being with me again, matey. And hey, I tell you, like I say, I'm looking forward to more shows, more talks, more topics, more World Cup themes. And Ryan, it's 23 days tomorrow, mate, and it's going to be a day less.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to get some chains to like strap me to this chair. Otherwise, I'm going to start taking off, mate.
Hey, it's all about to be busy. I mean, I'm already busy, but it's going to be even crazier in the next couple of weeks. So I can't wait to see this World Cup play out. It's going to be a good time, a very good time.
Cheers, Ryan. Talk later, man.
See you soon. See you next time. Cheers.
Johnny Hellman is a man, a Superman with the plan. guitar. Our team has come so very far. As quite a view's got us here. So everybody stand and cheer as we battle other teams. Top two places is